So when you start developing aggregate production plan, usually you will be mixing several different options and coming up with a plan. So a mixed strategy may be the best way to achieve minimum cost. But before we get to the mixed strategy, we need to find out what are the different ways in which we can develop a production plan. So finding the optimum plan is not always possible, but we're going to try to do our best. The first approach we're going to look at is called chase strategy. Chase strategy is so named because we are trying to chase the demand with the production. In other words, your production is going to be equal to the demand. So match output rates to the demand forecast. So when you do that, then you're going to hire and fire workers. So varying workforce level to match the production rate. So this is a good option for service organizations. Oftentimes you would find manufacturing companies may not follow this strategy that much. So chase strategy is a good strategy to develop aggregate plan in a service environment. The next strategy is called level strategy, and as the name suggests, you maintain a level production, doesn't change. So uniform production rate, daily same unit of production, or monthly same unit of production. So use inventory or idle time as buffer, which means that you go, if the demand is smaller, then you build inventory. If the demand is more than your production rate, then you use the accumulated demand. So we talked about this previously. This plan allows you to maintain a stable production, and stable production has other benefits like improved productivity and better quality and so on. So some combination of capacity options and mixed options might be the best solution. So like maybe we have to, this is one extreme. So level strategy is at one extreme where you don't do any hiring or firing, stable production rate. On the other extreme, you have lots of hiring and firing, and your production matches your demand. So it's chase. So chase is at one extreme and level is the other extreme. So these two are, generally speaking, a theoretical kind of strategy, or you compute your production plans using these two strategies more as kind of a mile marker. So you have two bounds, if you will. So this is chase and this is level. Now let's see whether we can mix the two and then maybe come up with the most efficient, the most cost effective, and a plan that has other benefits that we desire. So that is mixed strategy. So and we will look at some of those mixed strategies later on. And when we use either chase or level or mixed strategy, you may want to draw a graphical representation of the demand and the production, and that would often be beneficial to understand the difficulties involved in developing production plan. So what do we do with the graphical methods? First of all, of course, you have to come up with a forecast of demand, and then we have to determine the capacity for regular time, overtime, and subcontracting for each time period. Then you have to find the cost involved. There are three different costs that you have to look at. Labor cost, so the labor cost would be just production cost, wages. Then the second category of cost is hiring and firing cost. If you have to hire and fire workers, what those costs are. Okay, so that's the second cost. And then inventory holding cost or carrying cost, that's the third category of cost. Now within the labor cost, there are three different costs: regular time cost, overtime cost, and subcontracting cost. That's your production cost, labor cost. So three categories, of which the labor cost itself has three different items. Of course, for chase and level, you will have only regular wages. You will not have overtime and subcontracting. Overtime and subcontracting costs will be relevant only for mixed strategies where you try a combination of chase and level. And then of course we have to consider the company policy on worker and stock levels. So if the company has a policy of not hiring and firing workers, so then you have some constraints on that count. Or if the company says you cannot have more than 10% stock level overall in inventory, so that puts some additional constraints. So you have to take those constraints into account when we develop the aggregate plan. So and then you develop different plans, compute the cost, and compare, and then select the one that best suits your needs. Not just the one that has minimum cost, but the one that best suits your needs for your company within your constraints.